Sean Spicer's got a TV show on the First Network as well, SeanSpicer.com. Sean, how do you do, sir?
I'm well this morning, Michael. Good to be with you.
Great to talk to you.
Actually, the funny thing is, I was getting ready for my show. I'm listening to your interview with Seb Gorka, and I was about to tee off on drones, and then I learned a ton. This is why you start your morning with Mike Slater on Breitbart, because I was like, you know what? I had all these theories, and then Seb Gorka sets me straight.
That's right.
That's right. And I was like, I had all these theories, aliens coming down from Mars, and John Fetterman was a secret plant. And I don't know. Now I'm like, I heard you, Seb.
I've dabbled in all those theories as well, and there's something about Seb will set you straight on where you need to think instead.
I know.
Let's focus on what's known. I love you. I asked you to come on today, and you sent me a text. You said, yeah, man, those people in the media thought we lost the case. And I love it. What happened 4 years ago? Was it 4 years ago?
So just here's the Cliff Note version. And if you're under 40, Google what that means. President Trump was kind enough to appoint me to two boards, the Commission on Presidential Fellows and the Board of Visitors of the U.S. Naval Academy. And so when Biden came in, he immediately asked for the resignations of everyone on the commissions, which I obliged. Those are presidential commissions. He has a right to appoint his people, and I submitted my resignation. Then in August, I got this letter or an email from his presidential personnel office that said, Mr. Spice, we are asking for your resignation from the board of the U.S. Naval Academy by 6 o'clock tonight. If you don't submit it, you will be fired. And I wrote back, I won't submit my resignation, because that is a congressionally chartered board that has a term of office. I was sworn in for a term, okay? And my term didn't end until November. Now, you would think, by the way, why are you going to be so petty to get rid of a bunch of guys? But they fired everybody. H.R. McMaster from the West Point Board, everyone from the Air Force Academy, all the people from the Naval Academy Board, whatever. Extremely petty. My term would have expired in November. So just to be clear, August, he fires us. November, the term would have expired. I teamed up with America First Legal. That's the organization you were just mentioning, Stephen Miller, in respect to the Duke case. So he runs that organization. He said, hey, here's the deal. We will fund your case if you're willing to put your name on the line. We've asked all the people. And the only two people who were willing to put their name on the case were myself and Russ Vought, who had also been appointed to the Naval Academy. His term was longer than mine, by the way. But needless to say, of all of the people that President Trump had appointed to all of the boards, the only two that were willing to put their names in the lawsuit were myself and Russ Vought. So the case is Spicer v. Biden. If you want to read it, it's on my social media on Instagram, which is kind of cool, by the way. How many people have a case that has their name in the President of the United States? Which that's aside. But anyway, so my term, the reason I explain this to your listeners is this. My term was going to expire in 60 days anyway. But we wanted the Biden administration to go to court and argue in the affirmative that they had the right to fire anybody, okay? And the idea was this was going to set the precedent for every Republican going forward, because now President Trump can walk in on day one and fire every one of them and say, I didn't want to do this. I'm a good guy, but Joe Biden told me I can and should. And so President Trump you would have waited out the terms of all the incumbents. And by the way, just so people understand this, never in the history of the United States had a president fired people from the Service Academy boards the way that Joe Biden did. So He established precedent by doing that, then went to court all the way up to the appeals process and argued in the affirmative that he had the right to do this. So now President Trump has the absolute authority, as laid out by Joe Biden and affirmed by the courts, to fire anybody he wants.
Okay, so they won. Biden won.
All the media, when the case came down, they were like, you lost your case. And I'm like, dum-dums, did you really think that we were going to file a case and the court was going to adjudicate it in like 14 days? No one in their right mind, but we forced the Biden administration to do this. We won. No one realized it was basically a Trojan horse. We made them go in and argue for the power of the executive.
Oh, I love it. I love the idea. I love the idea of the Trojan horse where they think they win. They're giving high fives to each other. And then you guys are giving high fives to each other because you guys really are the winners.
The thing that I find fascinating, of course, I've made sure that all the right people in the incoming transition, see the case, know the precedent. And not only that, Mike, but the key is to say, hey, it's Joe Biden that did this. It's one thing to say, in the past, a lot of presidents have come in and fired all the U.S. attorneys and said they have a right to do this. In this case, it's President Biden that has laid the precedent for this to happen. So if you are a Democrat and you sit on a board of commission, expect to be fired and thank your current boss.
That's great. Now, is that because I have some bigger picture questions about that story, but is that all the plot of the story?
Yeah, I mean, the idea was, hey, we have an idea that will lay the groundwork for a future president, hopefully that president being President Trump. At the time that we filed the lawsuit, obviously, President Trump hadn't announced. We hoped he would, but the idea was to get them to lay the precedent for us going forward and make them the bad guys, and they fell right into the trap. And like I said, that the kicker in all this is they sort of are all waking up to the realization that day one, they have their own boss to blame.
Yep. It's so good. I love everything about him. Okay, now, just talking to Dr. Korka, he had that great line, if you are not willing to articulate your values out loud, then you don't really have them, right?
I love that story, by the way. It's
great,
just like right? You want a picture with Seb Gorka, but you're embarrassed. I mean, then go home.
So what you did, though? You did. You had the courage to put your name on it. You said you and only Russ are the only two guys who did.
I know. And
why?
Think about that.
Why'd you do it?
Because it's the right thing to do. And this is the thing, is that so many people, I have these talks, I go around, I speak to a lot of Republican groups. And I'll tell people, it's not easy. But if we don't fight, then we lose, and the country's at stake. I mean, look at President Trump. I talked about this yesterday on my podcast. President Trump gets shot. And he stands up and says, fight, fight, fight. He sues ABC News to the tune of $15 million in wins. Look, guys, I mean, I hate to tell you this, but when you have every institution against you, academia, big tech, media, corporate America, we're fighting some pretty big forces. But if we're willing to fight for it, we win. And that's what happened this year. People had enough of the wokeness, the DEI, the lies, the gaslighting, and said, we're willing to fight. And we won. And look at all these corporations folding like cheap suits. They're all scrubbing their websites, Mike, of DEI policies. They're going down to Donald Trump. And by the way, they're getting up so friggin' cheap. Mark Zuckerberg spent, $300 million on the 2020 election. He walks down and he's like, here, sir, here's $1 million. If I were Trump, I would have looked at him and said, that's the tip on what you're about to give me. I mean,
that's right.
I feel like Trump should be like, that's nice. What else you got in the wallet there? But they're walking down there to Mar-a-Lago with bended knee. And I think that if I were Trump, I'd make them pay more. But the bottom line is that when we fight and win, we affect change. And look at what's happening in corporate America, in academia. People are starting to say, okay, you were right, we were wrong. But it's only because not just President Trump, but so many people put their names on the ballot. So many people went out to school board hearings and allowed their name to be associated with with their outrage. But if we're not willing to do that and just hope somebody else does, we won't win. And Seb is absolutely right that it takes courage, but this isn't President Trump courage, right? This is just the small stuff, the stuff that we're asking. I mean, when Seb said, okay, post it, tag me. Oh, I can't do that. Who do you think you are? Why aren't we proud? Look at this. We have the majority of America right now behind us. Why aren't we proud? I've never seen more people wear MAGA hats in Northern Virginia and in places that I never would have expected, because finally we can be proud of our achievements. And I would encourage everybody, put your Trump shirt on, put your Make America Great hat on, walk down the street with pride. We won, they lost. He's going to make this country great. And I think, but that's the whole point, is that you've got to be willing to do your small part.
Yeah. Right. Talking with, of course, Sean Spicer. I want to ask you about personnel questions. So you mentioned Russ, who's now the head of OMB. Last week, we talked to Ed Martin, who's the chief of staff of OMB.
Yeah.
We talked about, he said, Ed said, Slater, if you want to be like the guy, right, you want to make moves here, you need to know and tell everyone about impoundment. So we spent an hour on the most boring radio ever talking about the history of impoundment, but we got to get on this. How excited are you about Russ and Ed and what OMB can do and the power that they have?
So let me just explain what I think in less boring terms, what Ed Martin was saying. What people don't fully appreciate in the last 4 years I sound like an infomercial, are the 3 Ps, Mike. What are the 3 Ps, Sean? The 3 Ps are people, personnel, and processes. And what I mean by that is this time President Trump has the right people like Russ Vought and Ed Martin. He understands the processes, right? So how do you affect change? Because the deep state, the bureaucracy is going to fight you. You have to play chess, not checkers. They know how to fight back. And these 4 years out of office, Russ didn't just sit around twiddling his thumbs or playing golf. He actually sat back and thought very, very deeply about how to affect change. What are the ways that we can use the system? And like I said, it's a game of chess. They're going to claim that we can't do that. Then I need to be able to say that we're going to do it this way. Then we're going to go around them and do it this way. We'll argue in court the following. They've thought about this. And then so now they can enact the policies. But I'm telling you, this is going to be a whirlwind. I've said this before, but people need to buckle up, baby, because this is going to be a head spinner when it comes to the first 100 days. They know what they're doing. They know how to do it. They've got the right people to execute it. And that's the beautiful thing about this. They're not walking in being like, hey, where's the bathroom and how do I get my ID badge? Like, these guys are on their game, Mike.
And I was going to say there's no counterforce against them. I don't know what deep state forces there are.
Listen, there is a counterforce against them.
Yeah.
But
I was more thinking the media. I guess my rebuttal to that would be the media is not ready at all right now, at least. But there is a force against it. So speak of the force that's against them. Right.
Like, I think what the difference is, last time there was a sense of, we can say that Russia did this. We can say that you're not legitimate. This time, they're out of excuses. And I watched President Trump's press conference at Mar-a-Lago. It was masterful. And it was like the little baby sat there and went like, but, and they had nothing. Like, they're out of it.